Martin Scorsese pulls out all the stops for this 3.5-hour long gangster crime epic. Stick around and find out why The Irishman might just very well be Martin Scorsese's magnum opus.
James Bond. Cannonball!
Been like this all day.
Did you rub my land?
1,000 generations to the Nina. Here we go.
Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome to FilmSpeak, where film is our second language. I'm Griffin, as always, and if film is your second language, consider hitting that subscribe button for more insightful and articulate film discourse and analysis. The Irishman is directed by Martin Scorsese, and it stars Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci, Ray Romano, Harvey Keitel, and Anna Paquin. In the 1950s, truck driver Frank Sheeran gets involved with Russell Buffalino and his Pennsylvania crime family. As Sheeran climbs the ranks to become a top hitman, he also goes to work for Jimmy Hoffa, a powerful union leader tied to organized crime. For those of you who are unaware, Martin Scorsese is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. There are like top 3 filmmakers, and Martin Scorsese is absolutely one of them. And while every Scorsese release is special to me, what makes The Irishman extra special is the fact that we have Joe Pesci coming out of retirement to act in another Scorsese mob film. We have Robert De Niro. We have Al Pacino in a film with these other two guys. That has never happened before, being directed by Martin Scorsese. It is incredible the amount of talent that is packed into this one film. And that would be impressive enough, but what makes The Irishman shine is the fact that this is a film that feels like it could only have been made at this point in Scorsese's life. It's a beautifully self-reflective piece on faith, on legacy, broken relationships, and regrets. And a lot of those themes are hammered home beautifully in the back half of this film. But what I especially love is that Scorsese takes his thematic exploration of his latter years, specifically religion and stuff we've seen in Silence, in stuff we've seen in The Last Temptation of Christ. He takes those notions, those ideologies, and he wraps them up in a gangster film, a genre that he knows through and through, a genre he's had a profound impact on and has changed and influenced other filmmakers. He takes that genre to tell a mature story of life, essentially. And throughout this 3.5-hour long journey, it's so contemplative, so methodical, yet never dull and never boring. And all credit goes to Thelma Shoemaker, who should win the Oscar for Best Editing for this film, because it never feels like it is the runtime that it is. It is perfectly paced. There is movement, there is urgency, yet there is never hesitation to linger on these important character moments that ultimately impact the overall journey. What this film does is it shows that there is no glamour, there is no glory in choosing a life of crime or choosing a life that requires you to be away from your family, from your loved ones, from the people and things that matter. And you can definitely tell that Scorsese throws his own personal regrets into the mix here, which makes it some of his most personal work to date. There are several scenes towards the end that even myself at a young age really resonated with. There are things that Frank Sheeran says that are so real, so relatable. They are statements we internalize and might not profess until later in life, but it's something that we all feel. And I found that those moments made for some of the most poignant material in this film. Now, don't get me wrong, The Irishman is a whole lot of movie. It's meaty, it's dense, but it's very accessible, which is probably one of its shining attributes. In some ways, it plays like a memoir, shifting through the many impactful relationships throughout Frank's life and the difficulties that came with the life he chose and maintaining those relationships. But speaking about Frank and his relationships, let's start talking about the performances, starting with Robert De Niro, who is exceptional in this movie. Everything is very somber, internalized, but you can perfectly see and feel everything everything that Frank does throughout the course of this film and the toll it takes on him. You get these glimpses of him in any given moment. You could see the hesitation and why he might be filled with a little bit of regret. And as this film goes on and as he keeps making these decisions and as he's forced into a corner, you can see these emotions and this regret amplified up until the end of the film. And it's something that sticks with him and deeply affects him throughout the course of his life. There's so much nuance to De Niro's performance, and it reminds us all why he's one of the best in the business. This is by far De Niro's best work in a better part of a decade or so. It really shows why him and Scorsese are just perfect together, and I'm glad they were able to re-team again for something as special as this film. Joe Pesci is also excellent, and the thing I love about his character in this movie is that it's so unlike past characters we've seen Pesci play, especially in a gangster film and especially in a Martin Scorsese gangster film. Pesci's character is very personable and he cares deeply about those that he allows to enter his life. He's obviously a mob boss and he has to work and answer for other people, but there is some humanity in how he approaches things. His relationship with Frank is very beautiful and intimate, and seeing how that relationship evolves throughout the course of both of their lives adds to that. Pesci is very quiet, calculating, and not overtly sinister like some of his past characters. He's not a loose cannon, he's very understanding, but he takes things very personally, and it means a lot for him to trust someone. And so seeing how Frank has to shoulder that trust and balance it with his other relationships makes for something very interesting. When it comes to Al Pacino, this is truthfully one of Pacino's best performances in years. He is undeniably good in this film. He really texturizes this larger-than-life union leader in the way only Al Pacino can. He has some of the best monologues and lines of dialogues. He chews every minute of screen time like it's his last, and he fucking loves ice cream. I could watch Al Pacino eat ice cream in this movie all day long. It was hysterical. And yes, while Pacino's performance explodes off the screen and is incredibly entertaining to watch, it's his relationship with Frank that becomes the heart of this film. Hoffa really gives Frank a true purpose and shows him a life that he could have outside of being a mobster. He also shows him the influence and impact he can have on his community by taking action. Their exchanges are brotherly and genuine, and I just loved seeing De Niro and Pacino on screen in a film where they weren't adversaries. They're very much closely connected through friendship. While all three of those legends will undoubtedly be in the best actor and best supporting actor conversations, I found Anna Paquin's character to really tie this whole thing together. She, in many ways, is the heart of Frank's journey, and it's just her disappointing, disapproving, and disgusted glare that she'll give Frank that he's forced to look at. Everything in that glance showcases how she feels about how she's been treated, about how her whole family's been treated, and gives us everything we need to know about their relationship. And it's those glances, those little intimate moments that Frank lingers on, especially towards the end of his life. Ultimately, though, Scorsese asks us to think back on our lives and the relationships we've had and the decisions we've made and ask ourselves, was it all worth it? Before we give my final verdict on The Irishman, guys, why don't you take a second here and like this video, share with your friends, and subscribe to this channel for more insightful and articulate film discourse and analysis. Martin Scorsese's The Irishman, as I said at the very beginning, is the man's magnum opus. It is by far one of the best films he's ever made. It's the perfect concoction of everything we love about Scorsese's gangster films, mixed with his deeper philosophical and thematic exploration of faith, his religion, the grapple he has with all of that, and coming to terms with where he is at this point in his life. At 3.5 hours, this film flies by, and it was a journey I really enjoyed embarking upon on. It was contemplative, methodical. It made you look back and reflect on your own life. And I think it's a film that when people think of Martin Scorsese, they're going to think about The Irishman and the legacy that it carries for this filmmaker and the impact he's had on filmmaking in general. And that is why this is not only one of the best films of the year, it is by far one of Martin Scorsese's best films to date. Not ready to crown it the best, but it is in the top 3. And so for all of those reasons and the reasons I've mentioned throughout my review, I'm ultimately going to be giving Martin Scorsese's The Irishman a 10 out of 10. And now I want to hear from you all. I want to know what your favorite Martin Scorsese film is down in the comments section below. And if The Irishman is playing in a theater near you, seriously, please go seek it out. Don't wait till Netflix. I'm sure many of you will have to, but if you can see this film on the big screen, see it as it was intended. It is an experience like no other. But on that note, if you have seen The Irishman, be sure to let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments section below. As always, guys, you can like FilmSpeak on Facebook, follow us on Twitter simply by searching FilmSpeak. And lastly, if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right, that's going to do it for this review, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Take care.